All right, Week 11's in the books. A lot of big names, a lot of small performances. It's time for the Week 11 edition of What the Just Happened. Take it away, crazy voice guy.
Corey Davis had just 2 catches for 20 yards this week. What the just happened?
You know what? Corey Davis is consistently inconsistent. Think about Week 5, where he followed up his 160-yard performance with under 50 yards. Now he follows up his 125-yard performance with 30 yards on Sunday. This is a guy that's got the 3rd highest target share in the league, but he's caught 50% or fewer of his targets in half his games. I don't think it's all on him. He's had very inconsistent quarterback play, but that's the deal, right? Whether it's Marcus Mariota or Blaine Gabbert, we just don't know which Corey Davis will show up on any given Sunday because of his quarterback, because he's still a young player. That inconsistency makes Corey Davis a very risk-reward flex play most weeks. All right, crazy voice guy, who's next?
The Eagles offense. Well, they really didn't do anything. What the Philly just happened?
Philly, I get it, like dilly. Like, by the way, those beer commercials more entertaining than the Eagles offense in this one. Just a total offensive disaster for Philadelphia Eagles, their lowest time of possession this year. They ran just 48 offensive plays all game long. Carson Wentz, as bad as I've ever seen him. He threw 3 interceptions, including 1 on the Eagles' only trip to the red zone. I got to be honest with you guys. This is Biddle. There's something clearly wrong with the Eagles offense. It's out of sync. All that said, Carson Wentz, Zach Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, they're still going to be startable. Things will get better starting this week against the Giants. I think it's one of those games where the Saints just blew them out. We've seen the Saints do this. I mean, they've done it to a lot of good offensive teams. They did it to the Bengals 2 weeks ago. So, look, I don't think the Eagles offense is going to magically be what they were last year, but they're better than what they showed on Sunday. It was nice to see Golden Tate get a bunch of looks in this one as well. Better days ahead for the Eagles offense, especially now that I think they've kind of discovered a running game in Josh Adams. So I know it's tough, but patience on the Eagles offense. Who's next?
Demaryius Thomas did nothing. 0 points. What the former Bronco just happened?
Yet nothing happened. I mean, this one was amazing to me. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this one. They're off the bye. They've had 3 weeks to get Demaryius Thomas into their offensive system. And you know what? This was a great matchup. Redskins really struggling against wide receivers recently. My expectation was Demaryius Thomas should have had a nice game, and yet it was Kiki Cutie who ran more routes than Demaryius Thomas. He's the one who actually led the Texans in targets and receiving yards. You know DeAndre Hopkins is going to get his. So, look, I don't think Kiki Cutie's going away. We saw Houston use Cutie consistently even when Will Fuller was healthy. So this isn't anything new. Thomas. But you just figured because they traded for him, maybe they would use him somewhat. Honestly, Thomas, who has just 4 total targets in his 2 games with the Texans, is a desperation flex play, a very risky wide receiver, 3-4 at best. I rank them Hopkins, Cutie, Demaryius Thomas in terms of the pass catches you want on Houston. And honestly, the way Deshaun Watson has played recently, I just don't know that you can trust 3 fantasy-relevant wide receivers on this offense. For me, Thomas is on my bench until we see some proof of it on the field. And if you need to drop him for roster space, I get it. It's been an unimpressive start with the Texans. Who's next?
Amari Cooper caught just 3 passes for 36 yards this week. What the first-round pick just happened?
Yeah, this one was weird, right? 2 of Cooper's 3 catches came on the first drive of the second half, and then he just wasn't involved much beyond that. 5 different Cowboys saw at least 5 targets, so Dak really spread it around in this one, given how badly the Falcons struggle at defending running backs in the passing game. Not a surprise that Zeke had such a big game. He actually led the team in catches and receiving yards. Guess what? Amari Cooper, even with this bad game, still being targeted on over 23% of his routes since joining Dallas, and his schedule going forward extremely favorable, including this Thursday against the Redskins. Even with this disappointing performance, he's still a wide receiver 2 for me. Crazy voice guy, who's next?
Dalvin Cook was projected 14 fantasy points this week. He only scored 2. What the Fran Tarkenton just happened?
Yeah, Chicago happened. That's what it is. Dalvin had just no chance against this Bears defensive front. He averaged less than a half yard before first contact on his 9 carries. Bigger takeaway is that his 55 snaps were the second most he's played in a game in his NFL career. He sure looks like he's healthy. The Vikings willing to give him a full workload moving forward. Just like a lot of people that play the Chicago Bears defense, especially in Chicago, it's going to happen. Better days are ahead for Dalvin Cook. Actually, if somebody in your league has Dalvin Cook and is panicked, I would make an offer for him before our trade deadline on Wednesday. Who's next?
Allen Robinson scored just 6.9 fantasy points after over 30 the week before. What the refrigerator, Perry, just happened?
I didn't think we'd get a fridge reference today. Honestly, kind of what I expected. Look, we knew Allen Robinson would likely face shadow coverage from Xavier Rhodes, so honestly, not surprising that he caught only 3 of his 7 targets. If anything, I actually think it's a positive sign that he still saw his regular volume, even in a tough matchup. All that said, Robinson, another tough matchup on Thanksgiving Day against Darius Slay and the Lions. Look, I know he torched Detroit in Week 10, but Slay was inactive for the game, so I wouldn't expect a repeat performance this time around. All that said, the Bears' offense is kind of exploding. Allen Robinson is part of a large committee. There's a lot of great talented pass catchers there in Chicago, but he's still the number 1 guy. He's kind of a low-end wide receiver, too, because it's going to vary from week to week, but you want a piece of that offense. So there you go. That it is. Time now. For all the latest fantasy football news and analysis, you can binge watch all the episodes of the Fantasy Show right now on ESPN+.